Hey everybody, welcome to Northern Thailand and welcome to the second installment of some Q&As based on questions that you guys have been sending me both in email and in comments out on my channel. Tonight is a big one though. I'm going to be addressing one specific issue and one specific issue alone, and it's because I've had a lot of conversations even just recently about this topic. It's basically revisiting my original episode of does mycorrhiza fungi plus biochar equal double good? And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I just recently had a conversation with another content maker out here on YouTube with regard to this. And I haven't even really had a full chance to fully discuss all of it with him. But what I want to do is I want to explain my position with regards to biochar. So the question that I have been getting asked quite a bit is, why are you anti-biochar? I'm not anti-biochar. I'm just not pro one size fits all biochar. What do I mean by that? Biochar is a wonderful amendment for sandy soil. But if you have loamy soil or if you have really heavy, mineral rich, dense clay soil like I do, biochar is not what you're needing. And the reason I say that is because if we're looking at it from the standpoint of what is going to make my soil better, both in the short term and in the long run, depending on what it is that you're wanting to do, biochar definitely has its application. Sandy soil has no structure. It doesn't retain water. It doesn't retain nutrients. If you've watched David the Good's channel for any length of time, you know he's been both down in Florida and in Alabama, and he's had sandy soil in both places. As a result, he has to build soil structure, and one of the best ways to do that is with compost, and especially with biochar. Unfortunately, he burns through compost faster than probably anybody I've ever seen in his soil, but the biochar does in certain ways give it better retention both for water and nutrients because it doesn't wash out, it doesn't wash away. It's perfect for a sandy soil situation. David's even gone so far as to try to create his own terra preta with biochar and replicate what was done, hundreds if not thousands of years ago in the Amazon. So that's one situation where biochar definitely is beneficial for that particular soil type. But in mine, and by mine, I mean by the clay soil that I have, and because I'm wanting to build a food forest which is focused on fungal domination, I do not want biochar. I don't even need biochar. The cation exchange capacity of clay soil is not a problem. I mean, I have really heavy clay soil. It retains water amazingly. It's not going to wash out the mineral content in it no matter how much it rains because it is so dense. Okay, if you've even seen my recent video where I was digging out the permaculture circle, you saw an example of water sitting in little pothole-like areas there. It eventually drains out, but it takes many minutes for it to happen, and it's actually perfect. What I want is to build up a good fungal community inside of my garden that can thrive for anything from plants to trees to ivies and shrubs, and even be able to put isolation points in place like little beds for bacterial dominance for annual garden beds. That's what I'm gunning for. And because of that, my amendment of choice is mycorrhiza. Why? Mycorrhiza has been shown in tests side by side with biochar to benefit the environment, especially in drought situations. And as much as people think that Thailand has the rainy season run from January to December each year, we do go through periods of drought that can be as long as 6 to 8 months. And with the El Nino system that's just recently happened, there's a very good chance that this could also happen over the next couple of years here. So I need something that I can make sure my plants are taken care of, especially when water becomes scarce. The property that I live on does not have city or community water. It has a well. And so there are periods when we're sharing water between the eight houses that are on the property I live at, that we run low on water, and our property owner will be like, hey, listen, just cut back on water usage. In those stressful types of times, I need to make sure that my garden is safe. And that's a combination of just making sure I've got good mulch in place. And if I don't have good mulch in place, I have to make sure that there's something in place that's going to take care of my plants and my trees. And mycorrhiza does that for me. But here's the other thing. And this goes specifically to the very first episode that you guys may have seen on my channel. What about the combination of the two? Doesn't mycorrhiza plus biochar equal double good? If you guys saw that episode and if you looked at the references that I had listed in the description box for that episode, you saw the HU conversation 10 years ago where one of the presenters had gone through everything from lab, greenhouse and field trials and explained why the two together are not beneficial. What ends up happening is that certain types of biochar, specifically hardwood biochars, have a way of, for some reason, snipping the communication lines of mycorrhiza. So what normally is a symbiosis, a symbiotic relationship that mycorrhiza establishes with a plant or a tree, all of a sudden turns pathogenic. Because what happens is when mycorrhiza initially makes that penetrated connection, that symbiosis connection to a plant or a tree that it works with, it says, hey, how's it going? I'm mycorrhiza. Give me sugar and I'll bring you nutrients. But when the communication lines are snipped because of the biochar, it goes to that plant or tree, it makes that symbiotic connection. It says, hey, listen, this is an emergency situation. Give me everything you got. And now you have a plant or a tree that has become sick. And it's just going to end up probably dying. The trials that were done by the AGU 10 years ago did not run long enough to be able to show that. But in the 4 weeks that the trial ran using sorghum, what they saw is they had mycorrhiza, biochar, and mycorrhiza with biochar. The trial that had the mycorrhiza with biochar, the biomass, above ground biomass, was half. The water retention was no better. The drought conditions were worse. And the plant's health, overall health, had declined. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's outdated information. That's a study from 10 years ago. I have also included in this video more recent studies done by UC Davis in California that was done about maybe 3 years ago that look at plots with biochar from 1, 2, 3, and 5 year results. Now, this is not specifically looking at biochar with mycorrhiza, but it is specifically looking at biochar. I am not anti-biochar. I really am not. But I think that people have really got to be careful, because just because you add it to your soil does not mean that it's going to produce the results that you're looking for. And the worst part about it is once you've put it in your soil, it's there. You're not going to get it out again unless you extract every piece of soil from your property and then fill it in with new soil that doesn't have the biochar in it. You know, in situ like that, it's not going to be able to be removed. It just can't. So the only thing that I'm wanting to do really more than anything else is just present a cautionary tale, not so much a warning, but just, you know, gang, look, there's a lot of different scenarios that biochar works in, and biochar has got so many variables to the way that it's made, the feedstock that's used, the temperature that was used to produce it. Was it pyrolyzed? Was it just an open pit burn? There's many different variables that go along with this. And you may also be wondering, okay, well, that's fine, but we've seen you use it in a nutrient channel for your trees. Yes, I have, but it's not biochar, it's wood charcoal. What I do is I separate it into a nutrient channel 6 to 8 inches below the topsoil, and then when I plant something, like for instance a tree, it is being planted very high in the soil, meaning I've got it probably about 4 inches from the topsoil down. So there's a good 2-inch gap between where the plant or tree is being planted and where the nutrient channel, where the wood charcoal is at. The two never see each other immediately. That was not happening in some of these studies. The studies, especially that had the two together, had them combined together at the same level in the soil. That's not what I'm doing, and it's anecdotal, it's pseudoscience at best, but the results, I got to tell you, every single one of my trees are healthy, good, thriving. My custard apple tree this year, which has only been in the ground a little over 2.5 years, produced so much fruit this year that I had to give it away to neighbors. It had tons of fruit all over the place. So it's just a situational thing. I think that if you separate it out in the soil, you're going to be safe. I think what ends up happening is that the mycorrhiza infection gets established early on before the tree's roots or the mycorrhiza itself ever even come across a single piece of charcoal. As a result, the symbiotic relationship is already intact, and apparently, at least from what I can tell, it doesn't have as much effect as what you saw in some of the other studies here that combine the two of them together at the same level in the soil. Again, anecdotal, I don't know, but that's basically what I've seen as a result of doing it that way. And one of the operating theories on my property, in fact, the main operating theory on my property, is that I potentially have heavy metal contamination. What does biochar and wood charcoal do? It sequesters, it harnesses heavy metals, it brings them in, and it makes them inert, especially in the cases of aluminum, nickel, and in particular mercury, which I'm most concerned about because I found fluorescent light bulbs on my property when I first moved here that were just laying around. Thank goodness they weren't broken, but who knows? You know, I mean, they could have been other points in time. I find them all the time out in the garbage can here, unfortunately, and In a developing country like Thailand, there's a lot of things that are not regulated and looked at as carefully as they are in Western countries. So I have to just be patient with that, and hopefully over time, by example, show them better ways to take care of certain pieces of trash, especially when it comes to heavy metal trash. They also throw away batteries and things of that nature. So it's a hodgepodge of possibilities that could eventually wind up affecting my property because it's just on the property in general. So that's really it. That's my position on biochar and the reason why I only use it sparingly. And when I say sparingly, I'm nothing over 2% by volume. And this is the other thing I want to throw out there. You know, a lot of these videos you're seeing people saying 10%, 25%, 50% by volume. If you start putting that much biochar into your system, into your garden, your soil, and let's say all of a sudden a couple years down the line you want to start a fungally dominated food forest, you may not be able to. So just keep these things in mind. It's just, this is a cautionary tale. This is just for you guys to consider. It's to think about. And I know I'm probably going to catch some flack for all this because I know a lot of people out there are just like, oh, biochar, it's going to save the world. It might in certain scenarios, but I don't want anybody thinking it's a cookie cutter solution, a one size fits all solution for everybody's soil, because it definitely is not. All right, so that's my rant for tonight. It's good to be back. 2024 is going to be a much better year this year, and I really appreciate you tuning in this evening. If you have any questions, definitely post something down below. Take a look at the links that I have in there. I've put the HEU link back in there, and I've put the UC Davis link in there as well. Look at them for yourselves, and hey, thank you so much for watching tonight. Wherever you are in this world today or tonight, you take care. Bye for now.